everyone, welcome back to my channel, Miss Return Soldier, where I share my personal journey on how I have been able to move forward from a divorce and start creating a life that I want and love. So thank you so much for joining me today. Before we go any further, I would just like to say, if emotionally you're feeling, like you are distressed, you are in turmoil, you're feeling sad, down, you maybe don't even know how you feel, I would like to urge you please to seek professional counseling, to speak to a psychologist or maybe a spiritual or religious person in your life, just to help you through this process and guide you as you move to the next part of your fabulous life. So last week I touched on the topic of trauma and how I basically just was in denial for such a long time, and because I was traumatized, because I didn't know how to address and work through the feelings of sadness that I felt, and because instead of doing the work inside, I literally just gave people and outsourced my emotions and wanted other people to validate me, to carry me and love me, instead of doing all those things myself. And it was actually in that process that I realized that not being able to work through my emotions, the negativity, all these negative emotions just started piling up, and I could feel on a daily basis that I was just growing to be just hardened, and become very cold, and just making it very difficult to even cry. So I must tell you what happened to me. I think it was a couple of months after the divorce, and I went to the bank because I was looking for a copy of my a proof of residence from the bank. So I get there, I meet with this guy at the teller and I ask him for a copy of proof of residence. Then he prints it out for me, gives it to me. Then I realize that no man, the details here are incorrect, because it says that I live with my parents. I think I opened the account before I got my own place, but that detail I definitely did forget on that day. So I said to the guy, sorry Abut, I think we made a bit of a mistake here. This is not my address. Can you print me a proper copy with my home address? Then he says to me, well, I'm sorry, but that is the only address that we have for you here. That's the only record that we have. You guys, I don't know what happened. All I remember was the bank just getting smaller. It became quiet in the bank, okay? I don't even remember what else that guy was saying. His lips were moving, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. I could feel this heat coming from the pit of my stomach, okay? And it just started rising, all right? And the next thing I know, I was screaming at the top of my lungs, screaming at this poor guy, basically saying to him, I mean, I just died. It was so bad. I remember when I came to it, everyone is looking at me like I've just gone crazy. And that heat that was rising from my, from basically the pit of my gut was now moving slowly to my face, and my face started burning. It was on fire, and I just right there in the middle of this big bang, I just started to cry. I literally just broke down in the middle of that bank, and I did not know what to do. I mean, everyone was just so concerned. People were starting to ask me, are you okay? I felt like a proper nutcase. I just remember picking up my bag and rushing to my car. And it was, I guess, in that moment, when I got to my car, that I realized this thing has gone too far. This thing of not being able to deal with my emotion, I think is now actually going to get me into a lot of trouble. And I knew then that, you know, I needed to sit with this pain and address it properly. But I was just too stubborn. I mean, you know, I had things to do. Like, I didn't have time for that. And I guess, like, in hindsight now, I think it's not like I was stubborn. I was just scared, and I also just didn't know how to do it. And this brings me, guys, to what I want to talk about today, and that is the topic of anger. And the anger that I felt during that time when I failed to actually deal with my hurt, and I let it like fester. It literally just it became like a creature, like a monster on its own. It turned me into something that was just completely different to who I was. So I have to share the story with you. Thank God for time. I mean, time heals all wounds, okay? Because this was really bad at the time. So my former husband used to DJ on the side. And, so when he moved out, he left some of his DJing equipment in the garage, for safekeeping. And because we were cool, I mean, we used to talk regularly and, about the kids. And so helping each other out was never a problem. So I kept the stuff in the garage for him. Then the one day I called him to ask for help, I think with the kids or something. And he said to me that he was busy and he can't help me. And I had heard, like maybe like a week before then that, he was seeing somebody else. Again, it happened. When he told me that he can't help me, I don't remember what else he said to me, okay? All I remember, truly, after hanging up, was going into the garage, and I went to where he kept his equipment, and there was this huge metal case, all right, full of wiring and cables and all sorts of stuff. That thing was a metal case, so it was heavy. I don't know where I got the strength to pull this case to the outside, but I did. I just remember pulling this case. I remember putting it under the tap, the outside tap, opening the tap and letting the water just run, okay? I stood there feeling absolutely nothing, just watching this water running, filling this metal case, okay, to a point where the wiring and the cables and all the other stuff that was in there, like literally just rising from all of that. And yeah, there was some crazy. And literally, I just stood there and just watched the entire thing unfold, weird as it is. And I think it was like around 30 minutes later, a friend of mine calls. And so I tell him the story, right? Then he sounded like really disturbed on the other side. He was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you do that? Like, what were you hoping to achieve? And I was really at a loss for words. I mean, I didn't know. All I could feel in that moment was my former partner has now moved on and I wanted to move on and I'm not moving on. I'm the one feeling really stuck. Like, how's that for poetic justice? And I just felt like, now it was the time to like really sit with my own hurt and get to know it, where it comes from and how to address it and move forward. And I just remember in that moment feeling like, wow, so this is what it feels like to feel like something now is finished, like it is over. I have to truly accept that things will never be the way that they were before. And it was so sad. It was almost like, taking, the last dirt and just like putting it into the hole, it was done. So after that, after the phone call, I go back now to that metal case that is now flooded. And I remember just trying to pull it to the grass side. And it was like, now it was heavier than it was before. And there I was pulling out like long black wiring and all sorts of stuff out of the case. And, now I'm upset because I'm annoyed with myself. Like, why did I do this? Now, my dress is wet. Like these things are heavy. I'm tired, I'm sweating. And I just remember thinking, I've just like really created like an admin guilt, disaster now, because now I'm feeling like really bad about what I've just done. I mean, I just remember, as I'm pulling all these things out, and trying to dry them, trying to put them in the sun so they can dry. And I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, what if the water has seeped so deep into these wires that when he tries to use them the next time, he gets like an electrical shock and dies? And I just, now I was like proper over it, okay? I was like proper annoyed, and I just thought, just see what anger has made you do. And I was not even sure what it is that I was angry about. I just remember just being so annoyed with myself and just being so saddened by the entire experience, like really disappointed. So you guys, I'm just sharing that story and the other story just to show you, I guess, what happened with me when it comes to anger, and just how, because I did not deal with my own feelings, it literally just, it was the emotion that was now dominant and was the one, present in my interactions with people, especially where I felt that I was not getting my way. Then I would like literally be pissed off, instead of being like a normal adult and accepting things for what they are, changing what you can change, and literally just letting go of the things that you can't change. I let, anger mask my hurt, and I let it literally just turn me into something that I was not. And I think when you do that, you'd be so surprised to hear people, use certain adjectives when they talk about you. They will say you are erratic, you're dramatic, you are just too much. Like, your presence, I guess, just becomes something that people just can't really deal with, and only because you've just let anger take over your life. I do understand that sometimes you don't know that, if your anger is a valid response to a situation that you're going through, or really it's your inability to be vulnerable and be real and know that actually you are just scared to pinpoint what your hurts are and deal with them like we're all supposed to do. So this is how I knew that my hurts had turned into anger. When I screamed at that poor teller for no reason, when I put cables in water, damaging someone else's property, and when I was known at work as that girl who doesn't take nonsense because I had such a sharp tongue. You see, it was perceptions like that that made me attached to the anger, because it served as a shield, and I felt empowered and protected by it many times. At some point, I had to step back, evaluate my life, and accept that I was experiencing built-up frustration because my life was not meeting my expectations really. I then realized that the more I became open to the idea and opportunity of a new beginning, I started to feel lighter. So I started taking better care of myself. I started journaling about what I was feeling. At first, I was all over the place, but I started getting into a rhythm. And I started eating healthier and exercising, which helped release that pent-up energy. And even though it's still a struggle to stay calm, I still try to meditate at least 3 times a week. I'm still learning how to sit with my emotions and be an adult about issues. And you know what? Even when I fail to do something right, I now know that I do matter and I don't have to have it all together all the time. And I'm still deserving of all my heart's desires. So this is all I have for you guys on this topic of anger today for this video, on how it affected me and how I still am trying to deal with anger issues that come up from time to time. So I would really love to hear from you, like any tips that you have on how you deal with anger, on how you actually are able to sit with the emotion and go through it and make sense of it without wanting to break someone's neck. I would love to hear that. Let's continue to support each other and love one another. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. And please don't forget to subscribe below and leave your comments. See you next time.